Hello, I'm Kevin Turner. If you're thinking of building or renovating a property in Queensland in the belief that using a builder with a QBCC licence is going to protect you, forget it. This is the sad story of Will and Mary Ockenden, who invested their life savings into renovating their family home 5 years ago. Will and Mary are in the twilight years of their lives and after 5 years are still waiting, and in the meantime their builder was declared bankrupt, the house is unbelievable, and Will and Mary are renting, and they have been for 5 years. So where is the QBCC in all of this? What about the protection under the QBCC's home warranty insurance policy? You see, this is where it all so often comes unstuck. You and I, trusting that the QBCC is there to monitor the quality of the work and the minimal financial requirements of the builders with a QBCC licence. On the QBCC website, they say, and I quote, "The QBCC supports the growing Queensland community by providing information, advice and regulation to ensure the maintenance of proper building standards and remedies for defective building work." So here's Will now to tell his sad story.
We started the contract in April 2014, signed the contract with the building company. It was to be concluded on the 11th of November of 2014. This character home, because it's 1930, which is obviously pre-45, so they're listed this as a home that not presented as demolition. So virtually they're putting as many obstacles as they can in our way to progress this site. I've had something like 4 builders look at it, and they've all come back to me with the same opinion in terms of they would rather restart the project with a greenfield site, because the amount of work involved with this to restore the defective work from the builder is something in the order of $200,000. When he first started, we found he never had a DA approval or a BA. He started the demolition on the site immediately, which involved asbestos removal. You can see through the sophites, they're all asbestos was through the sophites and some of the ceilings in the old property. That all got removed. I had to pay that chap cash.
There are organisations, both state and federal, that are supposed to look after people like Will. It's not the role of the bank to do that, although they have their interest to look after their own funding of people. But from Will's point of view, he's using his own money, and I understand from what he's told me that both he and his wife have worked for nearly 50 years each, and this is where it's gone, in the superannuation. The property's been sitting here for years, getting vermin, vandals, and the weather just going through the whole place, and it's an absolute mess and a disgrace.
It's absolutely paramount to have a builder with repute taken on the basis of a QBCC licence, but my understanding of that is that they now can issue a licence within 14 days in terms of online registration. I don't really see there's an easy resolution, because from the state, from the local government authorities, in not allowing us to demolish this, we can't move forward, because what we've got to do is sell this as this.
And can you sell it as is?
No. Well, people walk in here and they just see straight away the amount of work involved in trying to restore this.
What assistance, if any, has the legislation in Queensland or organisations such as the QBC given you?
None, because what happened is we finally, after probably 7 months, 8 months of this builder being here, we were concerned that he was some 90 days off site. He just wasn't ever here. They're working days, and he kept on asking for these stage payments, and we weren't seeing any value in the home in terms of what we were paying for.
And he effectively had the whip hand, didn't he? Because he was dismantling your home.
Yeah.
and you wanted to get the job done.
Apart from being absent from the site, he, when he was here, the work he was doing was pretty poor standard. The thing that really made me sit up was I had a meeting with the engineer, the builder and the design person, and through that combined meeting the actual engineer stated that he could not guarantee that any of the engineering specifications were adhered to. So I brought in a quantity surveyor and had him evaluate the actual the work that was done at the going rate at the time, with industry standards. And through that quantity surveyor, we established that we'd overpaid at that period of time by 200 grand. The QBCC moved on him and suspended his licence, and then they cancelled his licence. But I feel that he himself may have been able to hold his licence, but the nominee of the company, because the construction company was the actual nominee to the licence of this site. So I think all they did is they wound down the company. The local people complained to council with vermin, and as Greg said, I didn't want any more problems from local council or people here in the area. So what I did is I put this barrier in through here and boarded up the whole place.
How much did that cost you, mate?
This cost us $15,000. That's materials and labour. Put these fences through here and board all the windows. And the chap I went to do all this boarding up, he was a fellow that does a lot of work through QBCC with these types of failures. That type of work is governed under the Act and the Home Warranty Insurance Scheme by a $200,000 cap. So you can appreciate that $200,000 probably wouldn't even get through the roof and about 10 of the windows. It just wouldn't go anywhere on the job. We put in another engineer's report. He was a structural engineer, so the report is actually based on the structure of the place now. And also we had costings on that to bring the building back from the defective state just to a point where you can move it forward and complete it. And that was just short of $200,000. In terms of the requirements of local authority and then the requirements of QBCC, the state legislation and local authority are just burning us up. They'll just want to shove us back into a court. Unless I can demolish this, I can't even sell it really. It's not worth anything the way it is. The whole home is virtually demolished. And yet the council's sort of saying it's a character home, but like the home no longer has character.
Well, the way the legislation and the organisations such as the QBCC are structured and the acts which they act under, it gives you no protection. This is exactly what can happen tomorrow to anybody. So for those that are thinking of modernising a new home in an area, and your builder holds all the cards because he's ripped out part of your house, as I've seen with other people in similar circumstances, it's caveat emptor, you're on your own. If you have expectations that your insurance through the QBCC is going to rectify it, think again.
My wife and I found very difficult was we approached a lawyer to assist us with the termination of the contract, because we got to the stage where this bloke wasn't here and he just didn't give a damn and so forth. So we tried to terminate that contract, and through the intervention of the lawyer, what he did is he just went carte blanche, all tradies off site, and that was the worst possible thing he could have done. He should have allowed them to continue, and then at a point where they weren't achieving certain contractual standards or whatever, he then could have asked them for termination. But he didn't do that. He just said, bang, you're off the site, no more. And then what the builder then did is got his own lawyers involved, and then they considered it to be hindrance. To this point in time, we've had 4 QCs involved, 2 junior barristers, and 4 independent law firms have been legally involved with this, and 2 district court judges.
In a nutshell, what do you think the problem was, or continues to be with you? How would you define that?
The fundamental problem is right up front was to stay within the precincts and the confines of the QBCC home warranty insurance policy, if you read part 1 of that policy document, clause 1.2, and it talks about termination. If you don't terminate that contract in the view of the QBCC, and virtually what it means is you give the builder every chance in the world just to be there and keep operating. And if you hinder that builder or terminate in a way in which the QBCC doesn't consider it to be within the confines of that policy, they scrub the whole thing. And that's what they did to us. All our insurance was just wiped.
We recently conducted a survey of the QBCC, of those that have been affected by the QBCC, positive and negative. It was a disaster for the QBCC. I've run a number of surveys on federal and state government agencies. This is by far the worst. The QBCC is aware of the content of that. As far as I'm aware, they have done nothing. And that leads to people having seriously considering breakups of their family, suicide, but it's heartbreaking when you see the impact of what it has on people, and people such as Will, who's here today, his superannuation is invested in that, and it's a disgrace that the councils, the government, the QBCC and all the other agencies that should have been there to support him and help him have done virtually nothing. In fact, they're a hindrance. In
actual fact, I can say that since January 2015, every dollar that my wife and I have spent has been on lawyers. And the dollars has not put a tile on the roof, a window in, a door, anything to the structure of this home.
This has been a major ordeal in the lives of Mary and Will, which has been ongoing now, as I said earlier, for 5 years and has caused enormous stress and ill health to both of them. They are close to 70 and they've been living off their superannuation for the past 5 years. They are fast running out of funds. They are at a total loss as to what they can do. The QBCC is just a toothless tiger and nothing more than a protection mechanism for shonky builders. The house should be demolished, but the Brisbane City Council won't come out from behind their desks and their policies to come to terms with reality. I feel for them. The QBCC and the Brisbane City Council should get off their bureaucratic backsides and get this thing sorted. Do what you say on your website and support the growing Queensland community and protect them from defective work. Sadly, I say again, if you're thinking of building or renovating a property in Queensland in the belief that using a builder with a QBCC licence is going to protect you, forget it.